In the land of Custodia, a deeply religious community fervently worshipped a mysterious phenomenon known as the grievous miracle, an enigmatic force that answered the prayers of the devout and faithful in the most sadistic and twisted ways. The first miracle occurred when a young man, so full of guilt, prayed for punishment from the high wills. In time, his prayer was answered, and the log he sat on began to fuse with his body, twisting and contorting his form in a display of eternal agony. The young man never cried nor complained. Instead, he silently lamented the moment of his blessed twisting and uttered 3 words: "My great guilt." It was from that moment forward that he became known as the Twisted One, or the Father, and served as a model for those seeking the ultimate penance and sorrow. As flesh fused with bark, the Twisted One's forehead emanated a mixture of blood and gold. Each droplet of this holy liquid was considered sacred, and it was collected in a grail known as the Cradle of Affliction. In time, he was paraded around the land and worshipped by all for his martyrdom. After his death, the tree that he fused with became known as the Knot of the 3 Words. Every year, a hot golden liquid would seep from the tree to serve as a reminder that the Father and the miraculous event that occurred had not abandoned the people of Custodia. As the religion began to take form, a grandiose church known as the Mother of Mothers was erected to house those of the highest rank. The church's holy word was absolute, as the papal figure, His Holiness Escobar, was a messenger of the high wills and an interpreter of the grievous miracle and its mysterious works. As he relished in his position of power and authority, his delusions of grandeur grew to new proportions. His Holiness Escobar claimed that the miracle had forsaken the people, and so he turned his throne on the congregation, leaving his flock without a shepherd to guide them. And thus, the age of the turned throne began. It was at this time that Escobar experienced the grievous miracle firsthand. He began to sprout branches from his arms, his skin turned to bark, and his blood turned to sap. The miracle had transformed him into a gigantic tree that towered above Custodia. This massive tree was then set ablaze and continued to burn for a period of 90 days. Due to the tree's enormous size, the burnt remains, once settled, formed a nearly insurmountable mountain of ash, atop of which sat the turned throne. Any who tried to reach the throne were swallowed by the sea of ashes and reborn as the hordes of the miracle, or the punished. Individuals driven mad with faith and rage for those who had escaped such a holy fate. His Holiness Escobar was also reborn as the self-proclaimed last son of the miracle, and awaited any who would cross the threshold of his throne room. And so, a new age was born, the age of penitence, where the greatest profession of faith was inextricably tied to the sorrow that filled one's heart and the pain that agonized one's body. However, a group of pious followers of the first miracle, known as the Brotherhood of the Silent Sorrow, did not agree with the happenings of the church and believed the will of the miracle had been misinterpreted. A member of the congregation, known as the Penitent One, who had been silent from the beginning, located a holy relic known as the mea culpa and took the sword from the kneeling stone to perform the ultimate act of blasphemy and assassinate His Holiness Escobar. The mere act of carrying the sword was considered an act of heresy, and Chrysanta of the Rapt Agony was sent to destroy the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow. Armed with her sword blessed by the miracle and wrapped in crimson cords, she eradicated each and every one of the Brotherhood, including the Penitent One. In a miraculous event, the Penitent One was resurrected and set out on his pilgrimage to the Cradle of Affliction. Armed with the mea culpa, a physical manifestation of guilt itself, the Penitent One would seek to make a holy communion with guilt and penance to sever the ties that bound the people of Custodia to the endless cycle of agony and suffering that was the grievous miracle. The thorn on the hilt of his sword would grow as his guilt grew, and he transformed into the very custodian of guilt itself. On his journey, the Penitent One obtained 3 holy wounds from the ancient visages that had beheld the first miracle so that he could make his way into the Mother of Mothers. But it was here that he learned that a 4th visage existed. This visage was deemed a traitor and was blinded, banished, and bound to the base of the Knot of the 3 Words, as it had been the only one who had witnessed the true form of the miracle and saw through its veil of deception. Before its punishment, the traitor had obtained the true core of the mea culpa, the apodictic heart, which transformed the sword into a weapon that could challenge the intentions of the powers that created it, the High Wills. Both the Sword Heart and the Holy Wound resembled the hidden truth of the path of the eternal processions on the other side of the dream. The High Wills was a farce, and their so-called miracle was truly a curse that had plagued Custodia, and if left untouched, would continue to dwell over the land for all eternity. The apodictic heart stood for the clearly established position of dispute that the traitor took after realizing the truth, and the Holy Wound of abnegation represented the very act of renouncing the belief in the miracle as a benevolent force. The Penitent One, equipped with the power of knowledge and truth, broke the shackles that bound Chrysanta to the deceitful desires of the High Wills. She gifted the final Holy Wound to the Penitent One, and after defeating the slanderous Crimson Guard Dog, His Holiness Escobar, they proceeded into the path of eternal processions. The High Wills cursed the Penitent One for bringing guilt to the most sacred of places, as their final decree before their word, the miracle, would be forever silenced, and Chrysanta and the Penitent One proceeded to viciously slash at their faces and destroy the Great Ones from the ancient processions. The Supreme Trinity was no more. It seemed that the Penitent One had completed his journey, and through his supreme suffering had obtained supreme absolution. He was blessed with a vision of the Twisted One, and soon after, the mea culpa dissolved until its hilt, as its purpose had been fully realized. The Penitent One died soon after, and Chrysanta and Deo Gracias prayed over his body before burying him. The final scenes show a massive embryo descending from the sky, enclosed around the body of a man. Is this the Penitent One reborn as the new Messiah, or is this something altogether different? Join me in the next series of videos for a full breakdown of the canonical ending to find out. And until next time, it's the Inhuman One signing out.